prior to both consideration and action. Speakers are requested to limit their comments to 5 minutes. And now we're going to open the floor at 6:02 p.m. to public comments.
Hearing none, I'll chime in as a member of the community, again with thoughts of my father from previous meetings. A leader must be concerned with attitude and motivation as well as the outcome of their decisions. Attitude and motivation as well as the outcome of their decisions. An employee will follow directions set by leadership. An employee will follow directions set by leadership. A job done without the proper attitude and motivation is only a job half done. A job done without the proper attitude and motivation is only a job half done. Leadership must seek to develop in all employees a sincere care for the mission of RCSD. As leadership invests in the development of the employees, multiple dividends will be realized. Dividends that will benefit to the district, the community, and the customers. As we invest in our employees, the dividends will be realized by the district, by the community, and by the customers. Thank you.
Byron, it is amazing to me that those words, and we've always talked about how long ago your dad crafted some of that stuff. It's applicable then as it is now. Thank you again very much. Thank you. Any other public comments? Byron, I think you make it difficult for people to follow you. I with some of your comments. Okay. I know. They're awesome. Okay, we'll continue on with voluntary public roll call via teleconference. Any member of the public on teleconference who wish to identify themselves as present in the meeting, do so for the records in the meeting. We now open up the voluntary public comment section.
Rosamond News is here. John Joyce reporting.
Good evening, John.
Hey.
Chen with Kennedy Jenks reporting.
Good evening, sir. Anyone else? Hearing no others, we'll continue with the agenda there. We're down to the consent calendar. And we have the minutes M1, and it's approved the June 8th, 2022 regular board meeting. May I get a motion, please?
So moved, Byron.
We have a motion by Vice President Gunner. May I get a second?
Second, Director Wood.
We have a second by Director Wood. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
President Request?
Yes.
Vice President Barngwena?
Yes.
Director Alfred Waller?
Yes.
Director Greg Wood?
Yes.
The record show to approve the minutes of the June 8th regular board meeting was 4-0. We'll go down to the consent calendar, CC1, approve the check voucher register from 5/31/2022 to 6/13/2022. May I get a motion, please?
So moved, Byron.
We have a motion by Vice President Winter. May I get a second?
Second, Director Wood.
And a second by Director Wood. May I get a roll call vote, please?
President Request?
Yes.
Vice President Barngwena?
Yes.
Director Alfred Waller?
Yes.
Director Greg Wood?
Yes.
Well, the records show that there was a 4-0 vote to approve the check register voucher from 5/31/2022 to 6/13/2022. A 4-0 vote. We'll go down to public hearing, and it's PH1. It's the Urban Water Management Report. And we have Kennedy Jenks, Representative Yap from Kennedy Jenks will be doing the presentation.
Hi, this is Karina. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I was just going to say we'll open up this regarding adoption of Resolution 2022-8. And what we're going to do, we'll open up a public hearing then you'll do your presentation, and then we'll take receipt of it, and if there's any question from the community or the directors, we'll address it. So at this time, this is regarding the resolution pertaining to the urban water management plan, and we're opening the floor now. It is 8:07 p.m., and we're going to open the public hearings for the urban water management report. Now, at this time, Karina, are you going to be doing the presentation for us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead. You have the floor.
All right. Good evening. My name is Karina. I'm a staff engineer with Kennedy Jenks, and I've been assisting the district in the update of the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan and Water Shortage Contingency Plan. This presentation that I have here will provide a high-level overview of the plan's contents and findings presented in the public review draft. A little bit of background: the urban plan is intended to serve as a general, flexible, and open-ended document that can be updated to reflect changes in the regional water supply trends, as well as conservation and water use efficiency policies. The 2020 urban plan revises the 2015 urban plan and incorporates changes enacted by legislation since that time. So to talk about the purpose of the urban plan, these were developed in adherence to the 1983 Urban Water Management Planning Act and subsequent legislation for the purposes of encouraging water suppliers to conduct water supply planning. So for the 2020 urban plan, the short-term planning period is through 2025, and the long-term planning period is through 2045 in 5-year increments. Municipal water suppliers that have at least 3,000 service connections or sell at least 3,000 acre-feet per year of water are required to submit urban water management plans every 5 years to California Department of Water Resources. And these evaluate water supplies in a normal, single dry, and a multiple dry year period, as well as reviewing water use and losses during the same conditions. Urban water management plans are a common requirement of state grant and loan funding assistance. Section 1 of the urban plan provides some additional background information related to the Urban Water Management Planning Act and California Water Code. And as I said earlier, these plans are high level and not meant to be specific action plans or substitute for any project-specific planning documents. The 2020 urban plan covers the following topics. We start with a description of the district service area, including the population and demographics. And then we talk about historical water use and sources, including water loss reporting. We address compliance with the Water Conservation Bill of 2009, which is also known as SBX 7-7. And this is a Senate bill that requires retail suppliers to demonstrate achievement of a 20% water reduction target by 2020. Then we go in, talk about future water supplies and demands under normal, single dry, and multiple dry year hydrologic conditions. And we address the effects of climate change, infrastructure, and water quality on water supplies and supply reliability. We also address the energy intensity of water from source to customer. We describe the demand management measures used by the district to meet conservation goals. And then we talk about water shortage contingency planning actions, and these are specifically in alignment with the California Department of Water Resources 6 water shortage stages. So the major updates to the urban plan since 2015 include documentation of the district's achievement of SBX 7-7 20% reduction target, a report out on the past 5 years of water audits completed using the American Water Works Association method. We have a separate standalone water shortage contingency plan, which now includes a description of the procedures for conducting the annual water supply and demand assessment. And we conduct a drought risk assessment that shows the district's ability to meet water demands, assuming a drought over the next 5 years. Before we get too far, ultimately, the plan documents that in a normal year, a single dry year, and in a multiple dry year scenario, RCSD has adequate supplies for customers. So the urban plan in the next few slides will provide the data and the analysis that we use to come to this conclusion. Population and demand estimates were used to anticipate potential changes in characteristics of the district's water service area, as well as to document progress in meeting Senate Bill 7-7, which is on a per capita water use basis. These forecasts are based on existing data and are not considered targets to hit, but rather conservative estimates intended to help the district plan for the amount of supply that may be needed 25 years into the future. Population projections were developed by analyzing a variety of sources and selecting a reasonable growth rate that reflects actual observed population growth within the service area. So for the urban plan, a population growth rate of 1.6% annually was selected based on projections developed by the California Department of Finance in 2019 and the Kern County General Plan Housing Element Update in 2016. This growth rate was applied to a baseline population that we calculated using the DWR population tool, and this is a tool that overlays a digital boundary over historic census data to determine the population within the district service area. Demand projections include metered consumption and water losses, and these were developed by applying the projected annual population growth rate of 1.6% to the metered demand 2020. Water losses for each year were estimated based on the observed losses in 2020 as a percent of total 2020 demand. This came out to about 10%, which is like a pretty typical number for water losses. The population and demand projections are shown in this chart, as well as population and demand that was reported in the 2010 and 2015 urban plans. Demand is shown as these blue bars here, and these are plotted on the axis on the left, and population projections are shown as a green line on the axis to the right. As you can see, the 2015 drought showed a reduction in usage from 2010, and since then, despite growing in population, demand has yet to rebound to pre-drought levels. One important part of the 2020 urban plan and part of why we need to conduct population and demand projections is because in 2020, as part of the urban plan submittal, water agencies must demonstrate a 20% reduction in baseline water usage per SDX 7-7 requirements. So using DWR target method 1, which is based on a 10-year baseline period, a 20% reduction puts us at a target of 159 gallons per capita per day by 2020. And based on the district's 2020 population and usage, the 2020 daily per capita use came out to be 121 gallons per capita per day, which falls below the 20% reduction target of 159 gallons per capita per day. This figure also shows that the district's demand reduction measures, many of which have been in place since the 2015 drought, have been effective in reducing the district's per capita water usage. Since we met the SDX 7-7 reduction requirements for 2020, actually back in 2015. So now that we've established the district's projected water demands, we can look at the district's ability to meet those demands. So RCSD currently obtains its water supply from two sources. We have groundwater from the Antelope Valley Basin, which is pumped through district-owned and operated wells, and surface water purchased from ABEC, which they receive from the State Water Project. The Antelope Valley Basin is an adjudicated basin, and the district holds permanent water rights to approximately 404 acre-feet of groundwater per year. The district also receives surface water from the State Water Project through ABEC, and thus is subject to State Water Project reliability, which is highly variable. RCSD's long-term goal is to minimize reliance on purchased water from ABEC, and current actions taken by the district that support this goal include A, requiring that new developments acquire their own water rights, ensuring that the district will have adequate supplies to support these new developments, and B, recharging treated wastewater to the groundwater basin to eventually maintain 3 to 4 years of banked groundwater for use during shortages. So in order to assess the reliability of future water supplies, we made a few assumptions. First, we assumed that the district's future supply portfolio is about 90% RCSD groundwater and 10% surface water purchased from ABEC. And this aligns with RCSD's goal to reduce reliance on purchased water. Next, we assumed that RCSD's future groundwater supplies were 100% reliable, as they have been in the past. We also assumed that supplies purchased from ABEC were subject to the availability of the State Water Project. And finally, we assumed that the district has banked groundwater supplies that are adequate to meet any deficits in drought scenarios through 2045. So, big picture, what does this mean? It means that in the normal single dry and multiple dry year scenarios, it is expected that the district will be able to meet total demand through a combination of primarily groundwater, a small amount of surface water purchased from ABEC, and supply augmentation via banked groundwater as necessary. And additionally, deficits between supply and demand are closed in part due to water use efficiency and conservation by the public, which the district manages via public messaging. And from all of this puts us at a difference of zero between supply and demand for every year through 2045. Per the urban plan guidelines, we also performed a more granular analysis over the next 5 years, so 2021 through 2025, assuming a worst-case scenario of multiple dry years. In DWR terms, this is the 5-year drought risk assessment. The drought risk assessment continues to show that overall, the district supplies are adequate to meet demand over the next 5 years. However, unlike the long-term assessment through 2045, the short-term 5-year assessment breaks down and shows what supplies are coming from RCSD's usual supplies, being groundwater and surface water from ABEC, and what supplies are coming from supply augmentation efforts, which would be the emergency banked groundwater. Since actual water usage in 2021 was available at the time the plan was prepared, total usage for 2022 through 2025 were calculated using 2021 baseline usage and 2045 projected usage. Supplies were estimated using the net percent availability, calculated as 90% groundwater supplies that are 100% available, and 10% surface water supplies that are varyingly available based on ABEC's reporting. Supply augmentation efforts, the banked groundwater supplies, make up the deficit between total demand and estimated supplies, resulting in total 100% availability for each of the next 5 years. And as I said earlier, these are made up of a combination of your groundwater and surface water supplies, as well as augmented supplies, banked groundwater. The district's water shortage contingency plan is now required to be a standalone document that the district can update separately from the urban water management plan. It's also included in the urban plan as Appendix H. The water shortage contingency plan is intended to provide a plan of action if triggering events occur that result in a reduced supply, increased demand, or any sort of water emergency. The water shortage contingency plan includes voluntary and mandatory stages, which are intended to be fair to all water customers and users, while having the least impact on businesses, employment, and quality of life for residents. So during the 2015 drought, the state of California imposed mandatory demand reduction measures, and since then, the district's usage has yet to return to pre-drought levels, even though the number of connections increased from about 4,700 in 2015 to about 5,200 in 2020. That's an 8.7% increase. Since 2015, the district has observed demand hardening. That is, the most effective and simplest demand reduction measures have already led to reductions in usage that the district's customers have maintained since 2015. For example, this would include reductions to landscape irrigation, which typically offers the largest opportunity to reduce the demand during drought events. Because of this, the district doesn't expect that demand during dry events will change substantially. This slide presents Table 4-1 of the district's water shortage contingency plan, which describes 6 water shortage stages that correspond to progressive ranges in 10% increments up to 50% shortages and then greater than 50%. The stages in this table correspond to the 4 shortage stages outlined in the district's existing water conservation ordinance, but these have been mapped to the required 6 stages per DWR requirements. The Water Shortage Contingency Plan also assesses a worst-case scenario of a 5-year drought, as well as regional emergency scenarios. Per the district's water conservation ordinance, demand reduction actions at stage 1 are voluntary, and these are enforced through public education and awareness. But at stage 2 and above, all the actions are mandatory, including actions carried over from stage 1, and violations are subject to penalties and remedies. Demand management measures may include, but are not limited to, time of day and day of week landscape irrigation limitations, prohibitions on types of landscape irrigation, restrictions on water use for decorative water features, required repairs of plumbing leaks, vehicle washing limitations, as well as limitations on new connections. Recent guidelines from the state also require that for all shortage levels, all water agencies must expand their public information campaign and prohibit irrigation of non-functional turf. And this mandate has been incorporated into the Water Shortage Contingency Plan. The actions to be undertaken during each stage cannot be implemented until any necessary board approvals have been executed. And the district may update its water shortage contingency response measures based on actual water supply conditions, state policy directives, emergency conditions, or to improve customer response. Finally, to close out the 2020 Urban Plan and Water Shortage Contingency Plan, the district will need to adopt and submit each plan to the California Department of Water Resources. The deadline to provide public comments has been closed to allow time for the consideration and or incorporation of comments received on the public review draft prior to adoption. The Urban Plan and Water Shortage Contingency Plan will be adopted today following this presentation. Then the final documents will be uploaded to the DWR website and submitted to the California State Library. The final plans will also be made available to the public, as well as ABEC, the City of Palmdale, the City of Lancaster, Los Angeles County, and Kern County. Beyond the Urban Plan, DWR guidelines also require that water agencies prepare and submit an annual water supply and demand assessment starting in 2022. This assessment is intended to help water suppliers evaluate water supplies for the current year and an assumed single dry year to follow. And then based off this evaluation, select any appropriate shortage response actions. A draft AWSDA was submitted earlier this month, and a final will be submitted on July 1st. Shown here is a brief summary of our presentation. Thank you so much for your time and attention, and we're now open to questions.
Well, thank you very much. That was an outstanding presentation there, Karina. Any directors have any questions for the presenter?
I have no questions, and I'm going to make my comment during the director's comment time.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Anyone else? Well, I'll just comment real quickly. I was looking through it, and it appears very detailed in the information. I learned some information about the water usage for our community, but I do thank you for that information there. And with that... Okay. So we have nothing else. If there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and close public hearings on the Urban Water Management Plan. Let's move to the adoption of the resolution. Resolution 2022-8 to approve the plan there. If there's no further questions, can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved, Byron.
We have a motion by Vice President Glennon. May I get a second?
I'll second it, Wallace.
We have a second by Director Wallace. Roll call vote, please.
President Webb?
Yes.
Vice President Byron Glennon?
Yes.
Director Alfred Wallace?
Yes.
Dr. Greg Wood?
Yes.
For the record, show that the Urban Water Management Plan, resolution number 2022-8, was was approved for 4-0 vote. Again, Karina, thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome there, young lady. You're very welcome. Next, we'll move down to the new business and approve the disposal of the compressor. And Steve said either that John or Jeff to give us a presentation on this here.
I'm going to give you a presentation.
Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
Steve has went through and trying to find the depreciation value on the compressor. I do not believe that they came up with one because that particular air compressor was not in our inventory. That was included in the wastewater treatment plant. So we didn't have it as an inventory item in the books anyway. So he determined a price of $4,000. And if you guys are okay with the price of $4,000, then he'll move forward with selling it to him for $4,000.
I make that motion, NV1 for $4,000.
I have one question. Hey, we have a second. We have a motion by Vice President Glenn and a second by Director Wallace. John, on the 4,000, that's not, since we didn't have it, that's not industry standard. Is that just like kind of a market number that you guys came up for?
Yeah, I believe Steve did the research on it, find out what our new one would cost, and based on
Okay, gotcha.
the hours that one had on it.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we're talking about fair. We just simple number. Fair enough. So we have a motion by Vice President Glennon. We have a second by Director Wallace. Can I get a roll call vote for the approval of the disposal of the generator?
President Rick West,
Yes.
Vice President Byron Glennon,
Yes.
Director Alfred Wallace,
Yes.
Director Greg Wood.
Yes.
It was the record to show that there was a 4-0 vote for the adoption of for the disposal of the compressor. We'll move to NB2. Yes, adoption of Resolution 2022-9, amending the Series 700 Parks and Reclamation Series 800 operations of the Administrative Handbook. And we have the Director of Administration, Lizette Barrero, to do the presentation. Go ahead, Lizette.
Yes, good evening. So Series 7000 of our administrative code covers mainly Parks and Recreation. The district in 2018 decided to adopt Ordinance 2018-2, where it divested itself of the power to acquire, construct, improve, maintain, and operate recreation facilities. All we're doing is we're cleaning up our policies. Some of the policies we were able to easily eliminate. Others were tied to general operations of the district, so we went ahead and cleaned those up and moved them into Series 2000 titled Operations of the Administrative Code, and that is what is before you.
Director, any questions?
Yeah, I think it's something we really needed to do to clean that up.
I agree on that. Any other directors, any other questions? Okay, so hearing none, can I get a motion for approval of the resolution so we can have a roll call vote for it?
So move on NV2.
We have a motion by Vice President, can I get a second?
I'll second it, Wallace.
And a second by Director Wallace. Any more discussion prior to the vote? Okay, can we go ahead and have a roll call vote, please?
President Rick Wood,
Yes.
Vice President Byron Glennon, Director Alfred Wallace,
Yeah.
Director Greg Wood.
Yes.
Will the record show there was a 4-0 vote for resolution number 2022-9, amending Series 700. Okay, let's go down to presentations. And we have the Water Reclamation Plant Project Update. And we have Ryan, Senior Wastewater Treatment Plant Operator. Ryan, you have the floor, sir.
Yeah, so before I get into wastewater reclamation, I'd like to go over what the wastewater RCSD staff has done the last 2 weeks. Number one, we poured a concrete slab for the air conditioning unit. that should be arriving next week, Tuesday. We'll have a crane on site to set the unit, and the ducting and wiring will commence after that, and will hopefully be done by the end of that week, if not the beginning of the following. We also began testing with a new grease dissolving agent in our headworks and lift station. We continued with weed control and facility for the new hires.
What do you walk around with? Cell phone? You walk around with?
Today's events, we lost power at the wastewater plant at roughly 2:30 a.m. in the morning, and currently there's still no power to the plant. The plant is being ran by the backup generator, and the staff reported to those incidents and handled them very well and kept the water moving. One last item, the question was asked in the previous meetings, what was backed up by the generators at the wastewater plant? From my research of reviewing the plans and from my experience of being at the plant, there are 3 items that are not covered by neither one of the backup generators. In our headworks, you have 4 headworks pumps. 2 of those are not backed up by the generator. The grit removal system as a whole is not backed up, and 2 of the utility water pumps that pump water around the facility are not backed up by the generator. Everything else should be. Moving to the wastewater treatment plant reclamation expansion. First off, I'd like to say that TN from Kennedy Jenks is on the line. If there's any questions to specifics after that, you can address them to him or myself. 2 weeks ago, we began the Freshwater Startup at the plant, and with anything like this, you have unexpected issues that pop up. We proposed that we would start introducing influent wastewater to the plant on 6/13, and that did not happen. In the following days after the meeting, we experienced more operational problems, and they delayed the startup. Some of them are electrical wiring that needs to be done, conduit that needs to be installed. The big portion of it is the SCADA programming. You have 1,000 things out there at the wastewater plant that all have to talk and work together, and when you try to develop this program, there's going to be issues. The rest of the week, of this week and the beginning of next week, the contractors, along with the engineers and the electricians, will be working to resolve those issues I mentioned, as well as some others not mentioned. By the end of next week, we will complete the final freshwater testing, and we have full confidence, as in Kennedy Jenks' proposed schedule that I passed out to the board, that on 7/5, we will introduce influent wastewater to the facility. That being said, next week, when we do the final freshwater, we hope that there aren't any more issues that come to rise. As I said, the new schedule is in front of you. We plan on introducing freshwater on 7/5. And that's all I have for my presentation, unless there's any questions or anything. And also TN is on the line.
Hey, Ryan, what were those systems that will not be covered by that?
They are 2 headworks pumps. We have 4 75 horsepower headworks pumps. They're capable of doing roughly 2,500 GPM. 2 of them are not on the backup generator. We use one is the lead lag system, and when the new plant was designed, they put 2 pumps to pump to the plant, 2 pumps to pump out to the ponds. We will now use 2 pumps. We'll have the capability of using all 4 pumps to go to the plant, but 2 of them are not on the backup generator.
Okay, so are you losing your redundancy by not having that there, or?
No, I spoke with John, and we plan on here in the future, in the near future. Right now, we have 2 pumps. One does all the work. One is a backup pump. We're going to look into at least getting one, if not the other 2, on the backup generator. But there's a lot of stuff that comes into that. You got to see if the backup generator is strong enough, what load all these things take, and if the generator is capable of powering it. The other thing, the two utility water pumps, they just push water around their plant for those tickets. If those are on backup, it's no big deal. We don't plan on being out of power very long. However, today we've been out of power most of the day. The other one is the grit removal system.
Well, that's not really that critical of a deal if that's down for a few hours. I mean,
we'll have problems with plugging and things of those nature but it shouldn't be detrimental to the system as a whole.
Okay. And I just want to say that the delays you guys are experiencing, I'm not surprised. That's normal. I'm surprised that you haven't had more issues than you're having with a startup. Startups are they're terribly intensive, and that's when you find out all the little nitpicky punch list items that you got to go down and try to get them all crossed off before everything is working. But it sounds like you guys got everything under control, and I'm hoping that you can bring back for those two headwork pumps and also your grit removal system, because I know how quickly those grit chambers can load up, and they're kind of overwhelmed. And if it does turn out that we have a prolonged power outage, that we can have all systems. I mean, the wash water is not that big of a deal, but it'd be nice to see if we can kind of maybe in the future budget in some type of generation for your grid system and for your headworks.
I think, speaking with John, where we'll start when we have time is we'll find out what those pieces of the equipment draw for load, and then we'll check with the generator what load the generator is capable of, have a load test done, and then that will be our first piece of the puzzle to know if the generator that's on site is even feasible of handling those loads.
Hey Ryan, Director Wagner. Good evening. Thank you for the update. And this is not kind of for you to address. I'm just getting concerned about each time we come, the delays. I know Greg said that those should have been anticipated, but I'm also getting concerned about the money involved here. Every time we look up now, we're spending money for something. So I hope, when the Kennedy Jenks gave us a presentation, they said back in May that we should, be starting up. That didn't happen. Again, things that will be on our control. But I'm hoping now we're going to get some smooth sailing once we get this air conditioning unit in place. Because all I keep hearing is, I don't want to use the word excuses, but we keep having delays and we keep trying to talk around the delay, but a delay still gets delayed regardless of what we call it. So I'm hoping that we get there sooner than later, because it's starting to look like each time there's a delay, there's money attached to it. So that's remain optimistic that we're going to push forward. I appreciate the presentation. Is there any other directors that have questions about Ryan's presentation? Okay. Thank you, Ryan. Hearing no others, we'll move down to the director's report. Lizette, who's going to do the update on the rebranding? That was going to be Ben, correct?
Correct.
Okay, well, we're going to table that item because Ben's not available. So we'll just table that until Ben becomes available. Legal counsel, you have anything for us, sir?
Nothing to report.
Okay, he's away at his meeting there. Director Administrator.
I had a director's comment.
I know. I was going to go back, Brian. I'm sorry, Brian. I'm going to go back. I kind of bypassed that. Anyway, the rebranding, we're going to table that part of the director's comments until Ben becomes available. Now we'll start with Director Gwynn. Go ahead, Brian.
Mine is in relationship specifically to the Urban Water Management Plan for RCSD. In Tuesday's Antelope Valley Press, Alice's summary of the Urban Water Management Plan gave the reader a complete picture of the water needs of Rosamond Community Service District. Our general manager has placed RCSD in an excellent position for current population needs and future growth by purchasing water rights in perpetuity. I looked that up. It says it means for eternity. Now, I don't know if we're really getting water rights for eternity. But anyway, he has and is leading RCSD with the attitude, the motivation, and the knowledge necessary to secure our future for water and sewer. She did an excellent, the lady who presented it tonight was a whole lot more detailed, but Allison, if you read the paper on Tuesday, Allison's summary was just really simple for me to understand, and we're in a very good position for today and for the next number of years.
Thank you, Byron. Let's call to Director Wallace. Alfred, you have the floor, sir.
I don't have anything to say. I agree with my brother over there about doing an excellent job.
Okay. Let's go to Director Woods.
Yes, I've got some comments. I want to commend Byron on that, his comments on our water situation. You know, I got two things I want to talk about. I kind of want to piggyback a little bit on what Byron was saying and on the presentation we just saw. It showed in there the graph that we could be depending upon AVEC water of about 200 and some odd acre feet a year going forward into year 2025. And but I would like to respectfully kind of maybe push back on that. I think that this board and our general manager, through a lot of hard work over the last 4 years, has put together the purchase of water and through percolation credits through our water reclamation plant that we probably, I'm not going to say definitely, but we probably won't have to use any AVEC water, that we will have all the water we need to meet the needs of this community for today and going into the future for quite some time. And, you know, I want to take my hats off to all the board members here, because we never took our eye off the ball. We made it a priority to get out there and purchase water before, where everybody was saying, oh, there'll be plenty of time, you don't need to do it. We never took our eye off the ball. We stayed and persevered in it, and today that's the reason why that article can be written in the Valley Press today, that Rosamond is in good shape. The ramp down is coming to a close. We're pumping out of the ground about 2,600 to 3,000 acre feet a year, depending upon which year it was. And we had to reduce our pumping down to 403 acre feet of water. And now with our water purchases and looking into the future, the way this board, manager, and staff, that we are in that position now where we have purchased the water to where people in this community don't have to worry about water. We have water to meet their needs. When they turn their faucets on next week or a year from now or 10 years from now, the water is going to be there. With that said, I want to pivot. We had a water conservation meeting, Rick and I and Steve and Lizette, and we were basically talking about the state's new mandate on reducing water. Everybody has read in the news that we've had, they're limiting water down there to 2 days a week, and you got to go on even day or odd days or whatever. And it's amazing amazing that we were talking, we're putting together the numbers right now, and we hopefully will have a very detailed letter that we're going to put, and we are going to be sending it to various agencies and to Sacramento as well. But what we're looking at is that in 2008-2009, the state issued its original 2020 mandate to cut your current use 20% by the year 2020. We had reached that goal by 2010, 2011. We were already there. And we exceeded 20%. And then in 2013, the state came with another mandate to cut another 20%. And but we had to cut 20% from our 2013 levels. So we were already over 20% from our previous mandate. Again, Rosamond stepped up and met that challenge. And then we turn around, and now we're talking about another mandate to cut back even further. And what we're looking at is that while, yes, there are areas where we can look at our commercial use, because we have commercial users, that there are ways that we can look to conserve, maybe tighten the belt up a little bit on commercial use. But our customers in this community have gone far and beyond what probably 80% of this state has done, the communities in this state. We're hoping that the state to implement this mandate is not put communities like Rosamond and paint everything with a broad brush. Because every agency has the ability to produce the data to show how they reduce their water usage over the years, that the state, hopefully we can convince them to implement this latest mandate by using an audit system. And that's simply to say, okay, when communities like Rosamond and other communities like us that have stepped up and did the original 20%, did the second 20%, and gone far beyond, at one point, we hope to have the numbers, but we're thinking that our water reduction from the 2008-2009 level is somewhere around probably about 40%. Might be a little more, might be a little less, but we'll have those numbers later. But communities like Rosamond, and there are some, there are probably lots of communities in the state that can show the numbers that they've stepped up. And those communities should be given a pat on the back and said, well done, thank you very much. But the communities and agencies that haven't even met the original 20% reduction that was mandated in 2008-2009, much less the mandate that was done in 2013, those are the ones the state needs to lean on. Those are the ones the state needs to say, it's time for you guys to do your fair share in reducing water. We firmly believe that what the state is doing in mandating water conservation is the correct thing to do. And because we are in a crisis in this state, we do have a severe water shortage. But what we're saying is that communities like Rosamond can't be the ones that always make all the sacrifices while other ones keep their green lawns and keep their parks and golf courses and everything else lush and green and don't make the sacrifices that this community has made. So we're looking to culminate this and to, we're fighting for this community because this community has done its share. And this community shouldn't be asked to do more than what they've already done, because they've already met the demands that many agencies haven't. And I just kind of wanted to give that an update, and this is what we're discussing as a committee, and this is what we're looking at, and we'll have more details coming soon on this. And that's all I have.
Hey, thank you, Greg. And I think that we, not only as directors, but the community as a whole, we have been making those sacrifices. And I think the other part about it is that the community needs to understand that you folks have done your part. The community as a whole has done their part. And sometimes, it goes to the point where we're trying, it's the good of the cause for everyone involved. And it looks like that Rosamond, has done a lot of the good of the cause. But with that said, we're going to keep fighting a good fight. And I do think, Greg, that at some point, they look at the overall numbers, because I think we met our numbers for 2020. We met our numbers a long time ago, didn't we?
I believe we did.
Yeah. So I think we're in a good way. But you know what? Let's see where that battle takes us. But like I said, I just want the community to know that they've done an outstanding job and it doesn't go unnoticed. And with that, let's continue now. Legal counsel, you said you have no reports, correct, sir?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Then Steve, he's away at a meet at a conference. And we have, Director of Administration.
I have nothing else to add.
Okay, thank you. We have John, Public Works update.
Yeah, I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. And with that, does anyone, before we close the meeting out, does anyone have something that we did not get addressed for them this evening? Okay, hearing that, it's 6:54 p.m. Can I get a motion for an adjournment?
So moved, Byron.
We have a motion by Vice President Glennon. May I get a second?
Second, Director Wood.
So we have a motion by Vice President Glennon, a second by Director Wood. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
President Request,
Yes.
Vice President Byron Glennon,
Yes.
Director Alfred Wallace,
Yes.
Director Greg Wood.
Yes.
Will the record show that at 6:54 p.m. there was a 4-0 vote to adjourn? Good night, everyone.
Good night.